Hey, well, I'm hoping that this is recording. Right, thank you so much, everyone, for signing up to watch this video training. I had a bit of a nightmare last night trying to get this out. It really I started recording around 5, 4:30, 5 o'clock yesterday, but it went horribly wrong. I did 3 separate recordings that just wouldn't encode, so it meant that there was no sound basically. And then it got to about 10 p.m. and I thought, all right, I'm going to give this a rest and then I'll carry on tomorrow, which is today. So I do apologize that it's late, but I will. I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible, but also provide as much value as possible. I know that people don't really like watching training videos that are much longer than 40, 50 minutes. I'll try and keep it below that. So if you've ever seen any of my training, you know that I like to get straight into it. I don't really want to do a big introduction about who I am and what I've done. But I've been looking at the people that signed up. Quite a few of you already know me and you've seen some of my trainings before. However, there are a few new faces, new names that I've not seen before. So I'll do a quick introduction about who I am and what I do, and then I'll just get straight into it. So my name is Amelia Makosa. I operate close to 40 units, so 12 of them are mine. 3 are luxury houses. I use a mixture of rent to rent and bought properties. The other 25 I actually manage for other landlords and investors. The only difference there is that I'm not responsible for liabilities, but I'm 100% responsible for the day-to-day operations and marketing. I've been in short rental accommodation since 2011. So I've seen quite a lot, but I've been doing digital marketing since 2006, which is, a really long time. So I feel like I've got the knowledge to be able to do this video training for you, to give you advice on, how I put my websites together, and then what I'm going to be doing post COVID-19 in terms of, getting more visible and attracting long-term bookings. So my 2 brands are Welcome Apartments and MyCityPod. MyCityPod.com is a marketplace for people who are relocating from abroad in the UK, and they need somewhere to stay for at least a month. It's also a hub for people, for group travelers who are traveling looking for accommodation. Welcome Apartments is a standalone brand for your short-term rentals. So this could be people who are staying a minimum of 1 night all the way up to 6 months or more. So that's just it about me. I don't think I need to say much more. If you want to find out more about me, you can go on my website, emiliamakosa.com. You're probably watching this video on that particular website as well, so you can get more information about me on there. So we're just going to get straight into it now. As I said, this video is mostly about, putting your website together. And I wanted to make it as painless as possible. I know that when people talk about building websites, it sounds as if it's an easy thing to do. And trust me, it's really, really not. It's extremely time consuming and it's very, very frustrating. I looked at a lot of trainings and courses online to do with how to put a website together, and it's extremely techy. You need to have some kind of technical knowledge or background to be able to even watch that course and then implement. So I decided that the best thing to do would be to show you how I do it. I have basic knowledge of WordPress. If somebody asked me to put together a WordPress website, I could do it. In fact, I build most of my own websites myself, but I know that this is because I've got a vast understanding of the technical expertise that's supposed to go in there. And if there's something that I don't know, I've got a developer, I've got friends who are designers that I can call on to any time of the day and say, can you help me with this? Can you put that together? A lot of people are not going to be in that situation. So I wanted to put together this training so I can show you an alternative way of getting a website up and running within a day, really. I'll show you the process that I go through in terms of finding the domain, putting the hosting together, getting the design of the website, and then using a freelancer to put everything together. And all of this is it's not going to cost you more than £150. Okay. So when we talk about websites, I think a lot of people, especially in the short-term rental space, want to get their website done because they want to increase more direct bookings, not just bookings, but direct bookings. And it's a really good reason to want a website. And it should be one of the only reasons, or the top reasons, that you might want a website. But so when you have a website, you increase your direct bookings. But the only way to increase your direct bookings is by having some sort of strong branding that's aligned with it. It's not enough to just have a website. I've seen so many people with a website, but that website is not doing anything for them. It's not bringing in the inquiries. It's not bringing the bookings. It's literally just a website that's there taking up space, probably costing money and not doing anything. So what I'm going to try and aim to do today is to just give you some insight on how you can make your website work for you so you can actually increase those direct bookings. But it actually starts with branding. Before you go and run Google adverts, Facebook adverts, before you go and do the latest thing that you're being told to do on your website, you've got to know that everything starts with branding. If your branding is weak, if your branding is non-existent, then all you have is a website that people go on. That's if people even find it, and then they leave without, completing the action that you want them to complete. And in most cases, for us, they're booking inquiries and actual bookings. So your brand is basically your land. I read that from somewhere, and I thought that was a really good quote. So I'm just going to share that with you, which is absolutely true. Your brand is everything. It encompasses everything, and anyone that experiences it when they interact with your company, from your logo to the cleanliness of your coffee cups if you have any, so your furniture in the apartment, the color schemes that you're using, your marketing content, how you answer the phone, everything that you do, good or bad, that is your brand. It encompasses everything. Okay. People believe what they perceive, right? So the impression your brand creates and the experience it gives your customers is absolutely crucial to the success of your business. And you've got to remember about your personal branding as well. These days, you'll be Googled before you've even put the phone down. If someone is talking to you about something, it could be a potential rent-to-SA deal, it could be an estate agent, a developer, or a guest, they will Google you. Now, the thing is, what's been proven is that Google did a research, and Google is the biggest search engine in the world. And if you think about it yourself, before you book accommodation, before you buy a particular service or product on Amazon or any other third-party aggregator, what do? You Google that company, you Google the brand because you want to find out more about them. And that's exactly what happens with guests as well. Booking.com is the biggest online travel agent. And we're not going to try and gloss over the fact that they are responsible for bringing in majority of your bookings. So when guests do a Google search for accommodation in a particular area, they are most likely going to click on a Booking.com advert that takes them to a Booking.com page where there's a huge list of providers in that particular town. So if somebody searches hotels in Manchester, a booking.com ad will probably come up right at the top. They'll click on that ad and then they'll see a massive hundreds of listings on booking.com. What a guest will do then is go through all the listings, looking at different prices, different dates, and seeing which providers, catching their eye. When they find the providers that resonate with them the most, what they'll do is before they even make a booking on booking.com, they will go back to Google to Google you. So if you're on there as Linda Service Apartments, they will go on Google and Google Linda Service Apartments in Manchester, because they're trying to find out more about you. They're trying to get more information about your apartment, what you have to offer, who you are, any special offers that you have. Have you got different pricing? Have you got a premium apartment? They're trying to get more information, and this is where your website comes into play. This would be your opportunity to look credible, to look professional, and even if they don't book with you at that precise moment in time, and then they go back to book on booking.com, when they stay and they want to come back, they've got an alternative way of booking. So many times I've seen people, and I've literally come across somebody talking about how they had a guest from booking.com, they stayed for 3 weeks, and then they wanted to come back and stay for 2 months, and they just redirected them back to book on booking.com. And I gasped and I thought, why would you do that? You've just lost a lot of money simply because you don't have a website or a way for you to take that booking as a direct booking and save yourself at least 15% in commission. You've literally given booking.com business for something that they didn't work for. So it's really important that you have a website right from the beginning. If you do have a website now this is the time to sit back, take a look at it and think, is this website actually working for me? What else do I need to be doing to ensure that it is working for me? More times than not, from what I've seen, and I've worked with hundreds of clients, most websites are just built to be there. Nothing happens afterwards. And now there's this saying, build it and they'll come. And that's absolutely not true when it comes to marketing and when it comes to websites. When you've got a website, it's your job to now make sure that people actually find it. Okay. And the only way for people to find it is if you're visible. And that's what I'll be showing you later on in this training. So, quite frankly, your branding doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to be right. Okay, I need to say that again. It doesn't have to be expensive. It needs to be right. And this is exactly what I'll be showing you, to do today in this training. There's only so much I can pack into a 60-minute training. So I will try and put in as much as I can. But obviously, because you're watching this video, you're on my email list. If you decide to, to see this through, you're free to send me emails and tag me in the Facebook group with any questions or any roadblocks that you come across. Okay. And it's also important to remember that there's brand identity versus corporate image. Your brand identity is all about how you want your company to appear to your target market. Your image, your corporate image, is how the marketplace really feels about you. So the skill in creating and managing a brand identity which supports and enhances your image is, how will you put it together? And it's just as simple as that. You can pay, 10 grand to have some branding agency come and, do your branding, or you can use these resources that I'm going to share with you today to put your brand together that will look decent, it will look professional, and it will make you look instantly credible, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg like it usually would. And I've got to stress this, So many people have tried to try and get direct bookings, and it just hasn't worked. And the number one reason that it doesn't work is because you don't have a brand to start with. It's not enough to just post on Facebook or Instagram, or to just go on LinkedIn and start, sending messages to people. You absolutely need to have a brand, because if you approach people, if you post on Facebook and people Google you and they can't find you, or that they find you and what they see just looks extremely um, amateurish, it puts people off. The trust factor goes downhill. Okay. The thing is that there has been a shift in the last 2 years in how guests book their accommodation, thanks to big hotels who are driving the Book Direct initiative. Guests are now predisposed to actually wanting to book directly with you. The problem is they can't find you. Okay. Since this COVID-19 has happened, and I think this was the biggest catalyst for me doing this video, the Booking.com and Airbnb shut down everyone's calendars. And so you're not able to get bookings, you're not able to get inquiries, not even from key workers, which has left, people feeling really scared and concerned about, how they're going to move forward. And you're absolutely right to be concerned. I think if there was ever a time that it's really important that you separate yourself away from, the heavy reliance on websites like Booking.com and Airbnb, it's now. If you want to take your business seriously and treat it like a proper business and not just a side business or a hobby, then you absolutely have to put more work now into creating your own brand so you can have those direct bookings coming in. It's not easy, but it's definitely 100% doable. And it doesn't matter if you've got one apartment or 100 apartments. This works for everyone. Okay, you're never too small to have an impact. You're never too small to make a difference. So this is something I just wanted to give you insight on. So, is your website really working hard for you? And does it look good on all devices? This is something you've got to think about. I know some of you will have websites on here already, but most of you haven't. But if you do have a website, you've got to think about it. How many bookings have you had as a direct result of your website in the last year, in the last 6 months? And if you haven't got a website, you've got to think about this. When you do have a website, you want it to generate the responses you want. And for us, these are booking inquiries at the very least, and at its best, actual bookings. A truly great website designed with your business aims and objectives in mind is a powerful marketing tool. And as I was saying before, everyone's calendars have shut down, bookings have literally dried up. But for those that have websites, bookings have carried on coming in. And this is especially true for myself. We've not seen a drop in booking inquiries. In actual fact, we've had a lot more booking inquiries than we've ever had this time last year. And this is mainly because of, okay, people can't book now to come and stay. It's not allowed. There's a lockdown. But travelers are still doing sort of like an online window shopping. With the lockdown, people are keen to get out, and this is the time that they're using to do their research. We've had so many inquiries for long-term bookings, for mid-term bookings, starting from June onwards. So if people are Googling, looking for accommodation, and you're not there, they're not going to find you. If people, and this is true, people are still going on the OTAs looking for accommodation, and perhaps they're coming across you, but when they Google you and you're not there, you're missing out on opportunities to turn those lookers into actual bookers. So later on, I'll show you how to create a brand-centric Google ad that's extremely affordable. It's cheap, but it will make all the difference in how visible you are to people who've actually come across you on other websites, and now they want to do some more research about you and what you have to offer. Now, your website is all about grabbing attention and actually getting you noticed. It's not, I've seen websites that are just poorly designed. They look terrible on mobile devices. And if you go on the desktop, there's buttons that are not working. The navigation doesn't make sense. It's confusing. There's messages popping up left, right, and center because someone's told them that you need to have an email list. Sometimes it puts people off. If you keep your design clean and straight to the point and have call to actions that tell people exactly where they need to go, then you're winning at that point. I've put together PDF that will be underneath this video that shows you the 12 key elements for a homepage. Now, this is something you can look at when you engage with somebody to do your website, or if you decide to do the website yourself. It gives you an idea of what needs to go where and what it needs to look like. So you can take a look at that as and when you're ready. So the cost of a website. Now, I did a lot of research on this, and for me, it seemed like to get a website that would do its job for a serviced accommodation company, you'll be paying at least £800 all the way up to about £8,000 if you work with an agency. There are freelancers who offer web design, and the minimum you'll be paying there is about £400. Okay, so that's based on my research. So if you look at this here, a basic website, 1 to 5 pages, the contact page and a landing page is going to cost about £200 to £500. And then you're going to go, websites can cost all the way up to 10 grand. It really does depend on what you want and who you're talking to and what kind of functionality you actually want to be on there. But with what I'm going to show you later on, as I said, it's literally going to cost you, less than £150. So you spend £150 up front, and then you pay something like £10 every month for the hosting. And I'll show you what that entails much later on. So I'm going to touch on this really quickly. Tourism, what we're planning to do to survive this and come out the other end. So there's been a lot of talk in forums and in groups that serviced accommodation is dead. It was a bad strategy right from the beginning. People are suffering, and it's true that there are people who are going to have to shut their businesses down because not everyone was set up the correct way. Not everyone is going to get a grant. It's not everyone who's going to be able to get a loan. I hope most of us do, but there's many that have shut down already because this help came, a little bit too late. But tourism is one of the most resilient economic sectors in the world. It's been on a continuous growth for 10 years. Tourism last year brought in 1.5 billion arrivals, and there has been a 4% growth last year. 1 in 10 jobs worldwide are in tourism, and it's responsible for 7% of global exports. So this is just to show you that, service accommodation is not going anywhere. In fact, I predict, and it's not just me, this is coming from the big industry leaders as well, like Saunders, Go Native, Silverdoor. So service accommodation is going to become a much bigger thing, especially with this pandemic going on, because people are now going to value privacy a lot more. People are going to value space a lot more. And hotel rooms can only do so much, when it comes to offering space and privacy. But with service accommodation, it's so versatile. The families that want to travel with children, the group travelers, people coming from abroad to see their families, people traveling within the UK themselves. They will be wanting more space and more privacy now more than ever before. Because with this COVID, until a vaccine is found, until people can 100% feel safe to travel, I think that service departments, serviced houses, they're just going to be the go-to choice for travelers, especially if these people are traveling in groups. So the travel outlook post-confinement, post this lockdown, is that in the short term, there's going to be a lot of regional tourism. So these would be, if I give you an example, this could be somebody who lives in London, traveling down to Portsmouth for a few days on holiday, usually less than 3 hours driving. Mid-term, domestic tourism is going to kick in big time. So we're probably looking at within 6 months, after this lockdown is lifted, domestic tourism is going to be on the up, and it will stay that way for months, if not, years. Business travel will be restricted to necessary trips, and businesses will be asking themselves, can we afford to travel, but also can we avoid travel? Okay, so this is just something that I want you guys to think about as well as you move forward, especially after this lockdown is lifted. You're going to have to position yourself in a way that will attract regional and domestic tourism. And you've got to remember, the marketing work you put in today needs to start paying off within 3 months. And usually that's the case. If you market today, it's very rare that tomorrow you've got a ton of direct bookings coming in. It takes a lot of hard work to do, and when people come across you, they're not going to book with you straight away. They're going to go away, do a bit more research, maybe save some money, and then they'll come back. What you do in between them visiting you and going away will determine whether they actually do come back and book with you. And long-term, post-confinement, post this lockdown, we're going to see international tourism come back up again. It's going to be a long while before things go back to how they were, as recent as 3 months ago. It's going to be a long while. So the advice is concentrate on making sure that you're visible and you've got the right prices and offering value to regional and domestic tourism. So if we look at this, if we look at a comparison of how of domestic tourism, how it's just become more popular since this COVID-19. Last year, if we're looking at UK, people who were traveling domestically were staying an average of 3 nights, maybe 4 nights, compared to this time last year. But this year, they're staying an average of 6 nights or more. I mean, on our website, we've got key workers staying in all the units that we have. And that's because we carried on advertising on Google. We were doing Facebook, social media posts. We were using hashtags to be found. Key workers were founding us, and then we had a call from the CCS, which is that's the government procurement team, and we got listed, and we've literally filled all our apartments with key workers who are either paying cost price or they're paying a heavily discounted rec rate. And, I will go on record and say, had it not been for us being visible when people were looking, we would be empty at this point. We really would. So it just goes to show that, having your own brand, having your own website that's separate away from the OTAs is the wisest decision that you can make as a business owner. So there's a website called Home to Go. It's a short rentals aggregator. They've actually reported that their domestic travel has increased a lot this year, if you look at that chart. And they've also reported that their cabins are being booked 3 times more by domestic travelers than foreign travelers. So it's just a testament to show how big domestic travel is going to be post COVID-19. Another website, Holiday, they've reported that they have seen, people booking 3 and 4 months in advance, and they've actually got people booking for 2021 already, which is extremely rare. So what this shows is that people still have a strong will to travel. Okay, travel is not dead, and when people travel, they need accommodation. Okay, so that's just one thing that I wanted to impart with you on you guys. The Plum Guide, I'm sure most of you will know who the Plum Guide is. It's a short rental website for luxury houses and apartments. They've actually reported that their share of domestic bookings have literally quadrupled in just a month, and the length of stay has gone from 8 to 10 days to 30 days now. 80% of bookings are on relaxed cancellation policies, and the domestic booking window has doubled from roughly being 1 month before check-in to 2 months before check-in. And this just echoes what we're seeing as well on the My CityPod website. We're getting inquiries from people who want to come and stay in July, August, September. The length of stays have seemed to gone up as well. It's not just people coming to stay, for 3 or 4 nights. We're getting people who are looking to book for at least, 7, 10, 14 nights. These are the leisure people. And then from the business side of things, we've got, companies from abroad. We've got companies in the UK as well who've got people coming to stay over, and they're looking to stay for 2 or 3 months. Families who are relocating, they're looking for somewhere to stay. It just goes to show that people have now, they've always known that service accommodation is a good choice, but because of this virus, people want to have less interaction with strangers as much as possible, because obviously with the virus, if you've got it, you might not know, and you're able to spread it. So people are really cautious about that. Travel staycation have reported that their average stay is longer than usual, and there's a trend of requests for bigger properties, properties that have 2 or more bedrooms. Price-wise, travelers are also looking for cheaper options, and this is something that I really want to talk about. Yes, there's going to be massive demand for accommodation, especially post-lockdown. But it doesn't mean that you've got to hike your prices up and be unreasonable. What you've got to remember is that a lot of people, the majority of people in this country, have seen their income go down in one way or the other. So whilst they're still keen to travel and go away, it doesn't mean that they're going to be silly about it. They will be looking for value more than anything. Okay, they'll be looking for 100% value. So it's just something worth remembering. Do not put if your standard price was £150 before the lockdown. After lockdown, I would advise that you put that price slightly down. You shouldn't, price yourself as so low that like you harm your brand and your value proposition, but you need to remain competitive. Okay, that's just one thing that I think is really, really important. Now, to recap, domestic tourism is going to have a bigger trend this year than last year. And when you sell your accommodation, you've got to still sell your destination with storytelling. Okay, what's in the area? What's the nearest landmarks? How far away are they from your apartment? The nearest transport links? What else is there to do? What restaurants are there? What bars are nearby? Family-friendly activities, couple-friendly activities. What else is in the area? All this information, you can put that in great detail on your website. It's not something you can do on booking.com or Airbnb. And you've got to remember that when guests find you on these big websites, they will Google you. That's just a given, all right? And then you've got to also remember that people are strapped for cash. So you can't try and take advantage of that by putting your prices up ridiculously high. Obviously, you've got to be sensible. You've got to look at your outgoings and you've got to see what actually works for you. I think what the industry is going to be doing in accommodation until there's a vaccine, until this is completely over, everyone needs to be in a sort of like a survival mode. Survival mode doesn't mean that you're losing money. It just means that you're making enough money to keep going by, enough money to pay yourself, to pay your staff, and to take care of your outgoings. Because it gets really bad when you start losing money. Then you've got to, look at things completely differently. Okay? So, how do you plan on standing out from the competition? Now, the most important amenity that guests are looking at now are self-check-in, professional cleaning, and pets. Now, self-check-in is going to become very, very popular. In fact, we've started to implement self-check-in in every property that we have. We're going to, where possible, we're going to make sure that, we're not sending people to check guests in and that they check themselves in. And this goes back to what I was saying before. People are going to be very cautious about meeting strange people because they don't know, whether they've got the virus or not. So people are still extremely wary about other people, which is extremely understandable. So if you remove that barrier and let people know that they can check themselves in, then that's going to be great. Another trend that we're seeing as well is that professional cleaning is going to be extremely necessary. This virus lurks on doorknobs, TV remote controls, cutlery, that kind of thing. So when guests are booking accommodation, they absolutely want to know if your space is COVID-19 free. And the way to do that is to do a deep clean after every checkout. It's no longer good enough to just go in there and do a quick half an hour clean, because at the end of the day, you don't actually know what the guests that have just left, you don't know what they had or where they've come from or who else they had in the apartment. So for all you know, they could have left traces of this COVID-19 that could then infect somebody else. So it hasn't been scientifically proven. It's not 100% yet known how long the virus lasts for on doorknobs and stuff like that. But the best thing to do is to sanitize and use a disinfection cleaning company if you don't know how to do it yourself. If you Google disinfection companies or how to sanitize or how to clean your apartments and get rid of COVID-19, there's now a ton of resources of what you need to do. So whether you're using a professional company or if you're doing it yourself, you've got to let guests know that your space is COVID-19 free, okay? I think that's really, really important now, because if you have a website that clearly says your space is COVID-19 free, and then there's a competitor who doesn't, guests are going to be booking with you because they know and trust that your space is going to be safer for them to stay in. And then another trend we've seen is accepting pets. Now, I know it's not really a popular thing, especially with short-term rentals. And this is just mostly because of the hassle that some pets bring, hairs everywhere. But you can actually charge more to allow people to bring their pets. You've got to look at your insurance. You've got to ask your landlord, and you've got to ask the building manager if they're okay with it. If you get a yes from all three fronts, then consider allowing guests staying in your property. There's a ton of travelers, of people who want to go away and travel with their pets. but the choices are really, really limited. So if you just want to be able to get a bigger share of bookings, consider accepting pets, provided your insurance will cover it. So as I was saying before, Google disinfection cleaning companies in your town, in your city, and see who's available. And if no one is available and no one's doing it, there are guidelines on what you need to do to make sure that you've sanitized and you've basically made sure that there's no the COVID-19 virus has left or removed from your property. Okay, I don't want to give recommendations on who I use on this because it's a very sensitive topic, I feel. So if you get a different service to what I'm getting, if you have a dispute with somebody that I've recommended, the last thing I want is for anyone to come back to me and say, oh, well, you recommended this cleaners to me and they've not done a good job, so I'm not happy. I just don't want that hassle. So I'm advising everybody to do a Google search, do your own research, speak to different cleaners, see what they've got to offer, and then take advantage of them. Now, the thing that we've realized is that with bookings going on our websites, guests are not scared to pay higher cleaning fees, especially with this COVID-19. They would rather pay 60, 70 pounds for cleaning and know that they're going into a safe environment than to pay nothing and not know what they're going into. Okay, so you don't have to bear the brunt of this more expensive professional cleaning. You can pass that cost on to the guests, and guests are happy and willing to pay that because you've got to mitigate. You can't just, take on a £70 cleaning fee whilst you're charging £120 a night. How on earth are you going to make any sort of money from that? So I thought it's important to state that. Another thing as well, moving forward with cancellation policies, I know there's been a lot of talk about how to avoid cancellations and things like that, that there really is no way of avoiding a cancellation, especially if we're in an epidemic. This is the reality. People are not going to cancel because they want to screw you over. Okay, people will only cancel because they haven't got a choice. If you have somebody booking your accommodation right now with the way things are, it's because they absolutely want or need to travel. So the only time that they're going to cancel is when it's absolutely necessary for them to cancel because they haven't got a choice. So it's really important to have a flexible cancellation policy. This is why the big OTAs and the big travel websites are encouraging people to book on flexible policies rather than having non-refundable booking or non-refundable policies. If you think about it from a guest point of view, would you book a non-refundable rate and risk not getting your money back if this virus comes back, if the lockdown comes back? Because we need to remember this is not over. It's probably going to carry on for months and months. It's going to be a long while before life goes back to how it was in 2019 and before that. So guests are going to be wary about the policies that they're booking with or booking on. So what we've done is before all this started, we had a 30-day cancellation policy. Okay, that's it. You cancel within 30 days, you get your money back. Cancel after 30 days, you don't get your money back. It was as simple as that. But we've had to be extremely flexible. So now what we offer is a 14-day cancellation policy. If you cancel within 14 days, you get a full refund. However, if you cancel after the 14 days, you get a refund in the form of a credit. So you get that credit and you've got 2 years to use it, basically. So that's how we've decided to do it. Now we can do that because we control our bookings. You can't do that on booking.com and you can't do that on Airbnb, which is just another big advantage of having your own website and moving away from the big OTAs. Now, I need you guys to understand that I'm not going to sit here and say ditch booking.com, ditch Airbnb, get away from them. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you've got to make use of them as well, because these are big companies that literally spend millions of pounds in advertising. So you've got to utilize them as well. Okay? I don't think it's a good idea to list yourself on booking.com or Airbnb and then work your socks off to have a glorious booking.com or Airbnb page. What you need to be doing is to work your socks off to have a glorious website, a glorious brand, reviews on Google, Trustpilot, and reviews on your website. That's what you need to be working on. Because as we saw for ourselves, when booking.com is extremely, extremely guest centric. I'm not going to say that they don't care about providers, but they surely act that way. They don't consult with providers, especially small providers, about what's going on. They just seem to make it a decision and then they go with it regardless of how it's going to affect providers, the people that are actually bringing them the money. So you've got to think about this. Where do your loyalties lie? To your own brand or to some third-party company that really doesn't care about you? If you're gone tomorrow, they're not going to miss you. There's going to be somebody else to replace you. So the only way to have a real business, a proper business that will, have a good chance of surviving in times like this, is to create your own brand that's separate away from the big OTAs. And it's something that you can do quite easily. You just literally have to know what to do and start. Your marketing communication has to be a lot more polished now. I get emails from people asking me, what should I post on Facebook? What should I say? How do I attract people? And it's very, very simple. You're going to have to appeal to them emotionally or rationally. I think a lot of people shy away from social media because they think it's just for big companies. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Social media was put together to connect people. At least that's what Mark Zuckerberg says. And to a certain extent, it's actually allowed us to connect, because had it not been for Facebook, I wouldn't even know any of you guys. You've only come across me and this video because of social media. So it doesn't matter how small you are, you can still post in social media and get the attraction from guests that you want. So on an emotional appeal would be something like, come to Manchester, we're supporting a local community, we're trying to revive the company, the local economy. Tell your personal story, your family business, the reasons why you started, and have sneak peeks or previews of what's happening in the background. If you've gone to clean an apartment and you find something funny, share about it on social media. Guests love that. They want to see the human side of your business, right? If you think about it, if you had two businesses, I can definitely speak for myself. If there were two businesses, one business is a mum and dad serviced accommodation. They've got a lovely apartment in Cambridge. It looks the part and it's at the right price. And then you've got a big company in Cambridge, the exact same product. Who would I book with? I'm definitely going to go for the mum and dad business, because I know that these people will treat me like I'm the only guest they've ever had. My custom would be so important to them compared to the big businesses. I mean, they have so many clients, they probably wouldn't even know who you are when you turned up. But with a smaller businesses tend to be guest centric a lot. They take care of their guests a lot more. And that's what people know as well. Okay, so when you're thinking of, oh, what should I post? What should I write in my advert? It's just to remain as authentic as possible. Okay, you need to be professional, you need to be credible, but you also have to be authentic. The rational appeal, you can talk about the prices, the different rate types you have, the type of cleaning that you're doing, how many languages do you speak, privacy, safe things to do, the cancellation policy. All this is information that you can put together really, really quickly. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these post ideas or advert ideas that you can run for your brand. So marketing communication is going to be really, really important, especially now. So these are just ideas on what you can use. And now, as I was talking about pricing before, price drop historically has been very, very hard to recover. So I need you guys to understand that, okay, there's going to be high demand and you need to cut your prices down, but don't do it in such a way that it actually ends up hurting you. If your apartment is £100 a night, don't discount it to £40 a night, because that's what the big OTAs are going to be telling you to do. Promotions, 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 offer 30% off, offer 40% off. They will push you to do that because all they want are for guests to book. Because if a guest books and spends £40 on booking with you, booking.com are making 15% of that. And what are you making? What you actually end up doing is you end up losing money. So you need to stay away from, promotions like that, where you're encouraged to discount your apartments or accommodation heavily. It never works out for you as a provider. However, it always, always works for the OTAs. Okay, you've got to adjust your pricing to the domestic market. Now, for us, a lot of our guests were international guests, and these guys, they're prepared to pay a lot of money, because more times it's not them that are paying, it's their companies that are paying, because we do get a lot of corporate bookings. But now that things have changed, we've had to have a shift in how we price ourselves. So we're now price conscious and thinking about the domestic traveler. How much are they going to be comfortable paying for a 2-bed apartment, for a 1-bed apartment? If it's a couple, how much can they realistically afford? What's the reason for them traveling? Okay, there's going to be so many reasons why people are traveling domestically. Weddings, people just going to see each other's families, leisure, there's going to be holidays, Legoland, Bourbon Safari Park, Portsmouth, shopping, people just needing downtime. There's so many reasons why people are going to be traveling domestically, and it's going to be a big boom, right? Because people are not yet comfortable or feeling comfortable to go to the airport, get on a plane, risk, catching this virus. People are just not going to be willing to do that soon after lockdown. So think about your domestic travelers. Remember, people are cash strapped. And then you've also got to implement a length of stay pricing. It's a big necessity now. And this is just an example. You don't have to do exactly this, but it gives you an idea of what I mean by length of stay pricing. So rather than heavily discounting your rec rate for everybody, you've got to think about length of stay pricing. So for us, people who are staying one night will absolutely pay the full rec rate. People who are staying for 14 nights pay 20% less. And then people who are staying for a month or more are paying 30 to 40% less, depending on which location they're staying in. What works for me will not necessarily work for you. So you've got to look at your own circumstances and be extremely realistic about, what you want out of this. You need to work from the end in mind. How much do you want to be making? How much is it going to be worth it for you to carry on in this business until things go back to normal? There's going to be locations where you won't have to worry about that because it's going to be extremely busy. But then there's going to be a lot more locations where people have to sit down and take a long look at what pricing point they need to be for them to be very, very comfortable. Okay, it's just something worth remembering. And if you're not sure what you need to be charging, then I suggest you sign up to one of these data companies. We've got AirDNA, which is the most popular. Wheelhouse I've used before. They're really, really good. There's Transparent, Beyond Pricing, PriceLab, Rented.com. All these companies, platforms will give you an idea of what's going on in the industry so you can benchmark and then, do your research and then figure out where you need to be price-wise. Now, historically, especially last year, people, the big property managers, even small short-term rental companies were extremely cautious or picky about where they put their properties. But the general consensus now is that you've got to list your properties on as many platforms as possible. And there's different ones. There's short-term rental sites, mid-term, long-term. We've got the OTAs, we've got niche listing sites, we've got meta search, we've got GDS, and of course, you've got your direct bookings. I think the main focus here is that you need a lot of eyeballs on your apartments. A lot. It's okay. What the research has shown has that, and this was done by a channel manager, Rental United, people who've got listings on at least 20 different sites get 30% more bookings than people who've listed on just 6, 5, or 4 listing websites. And there's so many websites that you guys can list your properties on. It doesn't start and end with Airbnb and Booking.com. There's so many other websites that are UK based. Some of them are in Europe. That's where Germans, Spain, France, that's where they go on to look for accommodation for holidays or even for business travel. So what you need to do is to partner up with a really good channel manager. And I recommend Rentals United or Beds24. Those are the 2 channel managers that I will recommend because they allow you to connect with so many channels and platforms without you having to do the manual work. Can you imagine trying to list your accommodation on 20 different platforms? That's going to take you a lot of time and it's going to be a lot of hassle. So we've got a German short rental website, Home2Go. It's a really good one, but they do take 14% commission and the average nights booked are 7 nights. Another one I touched on before is Holidays, another German one. They take a 15% commission, but you need a minimum of 10 properties to list with this particular one. Now, understanding your past guests is really, really important. By understanding and having detail of who your target guest or customer is, you can focus more on where to aim your marketing and how to talk about your business. So you need to think about, when you look at your past guests, you need to look at where have they come from? What's the age bracket? How did they get there? When they were traveling, were they traveling as friends, family? Are they couples? Which dates or which season did you see your ADR go up, your average daily rate? And how long are they staying? What was the length of stay and the booking window? How long were they booking before they actually came to check in? This information will sort of give you a good idea on which booking channels you need to be on and what your average price rate needs to be on a nightly basis. So it's really important that you do. If you haven't got any past guests, then that's fine. If you there's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to have to rely on websites like AirDNA to give you insights on how much you need to be charging and where you need to be putting your short-term rentals. So to round it off before I go off and show you how to put this website together, my strategy, my advice post-COVID-19 is to take a hard look at your costs and get rid of anything, that's not really useful at the moment, okay? Advertise on all the channels that are available to you, all of them, okay? Now is not the time to be picky. I know that people have a problem with Booking.com. And yeah, I've had serious problems with Booking.com. But you can use them to your advantage as well. Make sure you use their promotional tools. Now, revise your cancellation policies on all the channels and make sure that they're extremely consistent. You can't have a 30-day cancellation policy on one channel and then have a 60-day cancellation policy on another channel. Regardless of how guests find you, they need to see the same message everywhere, including on your website as well. What you can do now is to email all your past clients and encourage them to book direct, but also encourage them to take insurance. Now, flexibility is important, okay? But you can't just rely on, okay, well, I'm going to advertise non-refundable rates because these guests should take out insurance. What we've seen with this pandemic is that insurance companies have not been able to pay out because in a lot of these clauses, it doesn't factor epidemics and pandemics of this scale. It's something like, I don't know, a tsunami or rain or a fire at the building. I don't know. It could be anything like that your insurance will pay out for, but not something like this. So we've got to be extremely flexible to our guests to give them that security that if something does go wrong, they've got a chance of getting their money back or, having some form of credit so they can book the same accommodation for a future date. It makes a big difference. Okay. Work with disinfecting companies, increase your cleaning costs, and post your cleaning policy wherever you can. I'm not sure that you can post a cleaning policy on booking.com, but I think you can on Airbnb because you could simply write it out on your description as part of your accommodation description. It's really, really important that you do that so people feel safe booking with you. And then also consider accepting pets. I know it's not really popular, but it could actually drive your bookings up because people who love this, there's millions of people who love pets. And when they travel, they would rather travel with their pets. So that's something that's worth considering. So now I'm going to show you what you need to do to put your website and get your stuff together. Now that we have an idea of what's going to work. So I'm just going to change the screen so you can see everything. So as I was saying before, when people go on booking.com, they then go on Google to do a Google search on the providers that they've seen. This website is called SimilarWeb. It gives you like detail on what's happening on any website, especially the big websites, and it's used by marketers. I use this website to do marketing research before I run a campaign. I like to take a look and see what competitors are doing. But if you look at the outgoing traffic for booking.com, you can see that the top one is Google. People go on Google straight after being on booking.com because that's where they're doing the research on you. So it's really, really important to make sure that when people are looking for you, that they actually find you. So it starts with your website. To have a website, the first thing you need is a domain. So I use GoDaddy. I think it's very simple to use. There's a lot of domain and hosting websites out there, but I prefer to use GoDaddy because I just find it simple. So once you've come up with your brand name, you want to buy the domain for it. So I'm actually going to use Linda Service Apartments as an example. You type it in there, click search, and then, oh, look, it's available. So you add that to the cart, click continue, and then this is where you add your hosting. Hosting is sort of like renting space on the internet world. Okay, without hosting, your website can't be found. Your website is just not, it doesn't exist basically. So that's why you need hosting. You see there's plenty of options here. There's economy, deluxe, and ultimate. I would say stick with deluxe. Click continue. So you can see that you've got the option here to pay for your domain up to 10 years in advance. I always pick 1 year because I'm notorious for rebranding. And then with your hosting, you can choose to pay 60 months in advance, a year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 months. So we can leave that on the monthly basis. So it basically renews at $9.99 a month. So what you'd need to pay is £25 initially to get your hosting and to get your domain. Okay. Once you've done that, you've got to think about the design. What do you want your website to look like? Now, instead of wasting a lot of time, trying to do things that you're not, because I'm not a web designer and neither are you. That's why we're on this video. I use a website called ThemeForest, themeforest.net. They've got literally hundreds and thousands of designs. So you just type in hotel, and then the platform you want to use is WordPress. There's so many different platforms that you can use. There's PHP, Laravel, there's Joomla, there's so many. But WordPress is universally known for being the easiest and most versatile one to build your website on. So as you can see, there's a ton. I mean, how many? 323 different designs for you to look through. And there's just so many, it's unreal. So you need to pick the one that catches your eye the most. And as you can see, the prices are really, really affordable. Now, what most web designers do, if they're charging you something like £400 or £500 for a website, is they would take one of these designs, okay, and then they will customize them differently to suit each client, okay. So you can see how they make their money. Obviously, you're paying for their time and expertise as well. But if you haven't got £500 to spend on a website, this is the simplest thing to do. And there's no technical stuff that you're going to have to learn here. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, when you're looking at these designs, what I absolutely look for, now there's this particular design that I found, and I love this one because of this at the bottom here. The payment gateways, it supports Stripe and WorldPay and PayPal. So that's really, really important. So you can take those direct bookings straight away. And then equally as important, it's got the iCal functionality, which means that you can sync your calendar to your booking.com, Airbnb, TripAdvisor, or anywhere else that you have a calendar, even your channel manager, because most channel managers will have the iCal functionality. So if you link these two together, then it means that when guests come on your website, they are literally booking instantly your live rates, and then it updates everywhere else. So you don't have to, like when somebody books on your website, you don't then have to go to your channel manager and close rooms, because it's going to be done automatically. And if you click live preview for any of the designs that you like the look of, you can actually see what they look like. Most of them will come with different demos. This is like pre-made information in there already, so you don't have to start from scratch. So we're going to look at the apartment hotel demo. And as you can see, big writings, big pictures, which are really, really important. There's a call to action straight away, but you could actually put book now over here, or search availability as a call to action. You can put more information in here, talk more about your company, your location, and then you can add as many pages as you like. Now, the most important pages on a hotel website are the home page, the About Us page, the booking terms page, the contact page, so I'm going to go up here and show you the page where they see all the apartments that you have, obviously, and then a blog page. Now, you're going to be using your blog to write information about your town, your area, and more about your location. And this is where you can actually display all the reviews that you have on different platforms as well, just so people know that you're actually credible. But what you really want your website to do is to generate those bookings and booking inquiries. And this particular theme will do that for you. So now you might be thinking, okay, so I've got the domain, I've got the hosting, I've got this. How do I put it all together? The simplest way of doing this is to get a freelancer involved. Okay, I use a freelancer on Fiverr, and I've left his details underneath this video. If you decide that this is what you want to do, you've chosen the perfect design for you out of the hundreds of designs on ThemeForest. You've got the files, you've bought them, you've got your domain, you've got your hosting. All you have to do is message him, tell him that you've got all this ready and you want him to put your website together. Give him your color scheme, tell him the color scheme you want, give him your logo. If you haven't got a logo, you can design one yourself on an app called Canva, canva.com, canva.com. I've left the resource down here. Or you can go on 99designs.co.uk and get a professional logo done. It really does depend on your budget. You can do one yourself in Canva that will look really good, or you can go on 99 Designs and get a professional to do one for you. It really does depend on what your budget is at the moment. So I've left his resource downstairs, not downstairs, underneath this video for you to utilize him. You don't have to use my freelancer guide. You could easily find a freelancer on Fiverr or in PPH, but just be wary on how much they'll charge you. My freelancer will only charge you $40 to do this, which is really absolutely next to nothing. If you think about it, you can spend $40 and have him put the whole thing together. You've got to provide your content and photos and information, obviously, for him to put it on there. He's not going to be able to do that for you. Only you can provide that. So you provide him all the details and he puts that together for $40. What would you rather do? Spend $40 to get someone to do it, or spend hours trying to figure out how to do it yourself, looking at all these different courses online, and in the end, you're going to have to pay somebody to do it because it's not as easy as it seems. The biggest advantage to using WordPress is that when he's put everything together and you want to make changes, you don't need to go back to him to make the changes. It's literally a case of going to a particular page, click edit, and then changing the information. You can change pictures, text, call to actions, all of that can be changed. You can do it yourself. And it's very, very simple. The difficult part is putting everything together. And that's what I don't want you to do, because it will take up so much valuable time from you. And at the end of it, it's not going to look nowhere near as professional as it would if you just let somebody who knows WordPress do it for you. So that's it. Doesn't take a long time to do. I think you'd spend a lot more time trying to figure out which design to go for. But once you've picked out your perfect design, you could just give it to a freelancer and they'll put everything together for you. After you've done that now, the next thing you want to do is be visible. You want people to actually find you when they Google you. So for instance, if somebody Googles My City Pod, this advert comes up right at the top. And when people click on it, they're taken straight to the website where they can search. There's a call to action right there. There's social proof in terms of reviews. And if you scroll down, you can see more of the apartments, the locations that we're in. And then we've got the blog over here. And then you've got the footer right at the bottom, social media links as well. Now, for people to find you, you need to run an advert, a brand advert on Google, okay? Because otherwise, if you've got Linda Service Apartments on booking.com and somebody types in Linda Service Apartments Manchester on Google, you're not going to show up because you don't have a website, you're not known. And they're really cheap. As you can see, I'm paying 9 cents per click. these are for people who've seen you somewhere already. So the booking intent is stronger, okay? They're not going to know your company name unless they've actually seen you somewhere, right? So you sign up to a Google account, to a Gmail account. Once you've got a Gmail account, you go to ads.google.com or just Google Ads and click the top link. The first thing you want to do is to create a campaign. So you now, obviously, when you create your Google Ads account, you're not going to have any of this because it's a new account, so there'll be nothing for you to see. So you click New Campaign, you ignore all of this, and then go to Create Campaign without a goal, and then you select Search over here. What you want are website visits, so you type in obviously, this is a test. I'm not going to run this. I'm just doing it for your benefit. You put your website details in there. You click Continue. And then you're going to want to name this to something that you remember or that will make sense to you. Deselect Display Network because you only want to appear on the Google search results when people are actually looking for you. Leave that as all countries because you want everyone in the world who's looking for you to find you. Set your budget to $10. It could be less, it depends. And then the bidding you want here is for clicks. Okay. Click Save and Continue. I really hope you guys can see this screen well. So you're going to name this brand only keywords. I'm putting test on there because I need to delete this straight afterwards. I don't want this ad to run. So you're going to put an open bracket and then put Linda Serviced Apartments, close the bracket. I'm really sorry, guys, as I'm recording this, my son, is his birthday today, so I woke up pretty early to try and do this. So you might hear him in the background. Okay, Linda Says Apartments, close the brackets, open brackets again, Linda Serviced Apartments, Manchester. Now, it's really important that you put those opening and closing brackets. This is what we call a match type. If you just leave it at Linda Serviced Apartments, it means that if somebody on Google types in serviced apartments, your ad is going to show up. If somebody types in apartments in Manchester, your ad is going to show up. We don't want that because those keywords tend to be really, really expensive. Okay, so this is not what this training is about. This is about your brand only. Okay, your brand keywords, so people can find you on Google once they've seen you on the OTAs, right? So, I mean, Google actually explains here itself. Match types help control which searches trigger your ads. So if it's just a keyword, it's going to be a broad match. There could be all sorts of different words before and after and in between Linda Serviced Apartments, and your ad will show up, which makes it very, very expensive. If you put these inverted commas in the keyword, then it's a phrase match. But if you put these brackets, it's an exact match. That means people will have to type in these words exactly as they are, Linda Serviced Apartments, Manchester, for your ad to show up. If they type in Linda Serviced, you're not going to show up. And that's good because you want people to type in the entire thing for you to show up, which will make it extremely cheap and highly relevant for you. So once you've done that, it'll be time to actually write your ad. So I would put something like this. Linda Serviced Apartments, official website, official website, book direct. Okay, and then here you could put apartments near Trafford. I don't even know if Trafford is a place. I think there's a Trafford station. That's not going to fit. Well, I'll just leave it at that. And then the description could be spacious, because what you're trying to do here is sell yourself. Spacious, serviced apartments in Manchester near Trafford Station. If you have 1 and 2 bed apartments, that's what you'd put down here. 1 and 2 bed. God. Oh, okay. 1 and 2 bed apartments. Okay. And then you'd say book direct. Now with Google Ads, every word you write needs to start with a capital letter. That's just how they like their ads to appear. And if you choose not to do that, your quality score will be low. So book direct and save 25%, free Wi-Fi. Oh God, early check-in. Free upgrades. Stay for 1. Am I running out of space? I think I am. 1 night. Oh, okay, I'm running out of space. I want to put stay for 1 night or more, which I think is really important. So I'll delete free upgrades. Stay for 1 night or more. And there you've got it. You've got your ad. You can preview, see what it looks like on a mobile device. And this is what it would look like on desktop. Once you've created your ad, you click save and continue. And literally, that's all it is. That's it. So it's a very effective way of making sure that you're visible on Google when it's really important, when people are actually looking for you. This is a basic starter way of doing it. There are more advanced Google ads you can run. There's more advanced Facebook ads you can run, but obviously I'm not going to go into that now. This was just a short video to show you how to put your website together, what the branding is so important. Why you need a brand, first of all, to increase your direct bookings, because if you just have a website but you haven't got a brand, those direct bookings are not going to come. It really is just as simple as that. There's so many people that are doing service accommodation and not advertising on OTAs. I'm one of them. I've got a ton of properties that I successfully let out on a short let without being on OTAs. And I'm not alone. There's so many other people who are doing the same thing right here in the UK. They're doing it quietly and very successfully. But it just goes to show that you can do it as well. It's not just for people who've got a lot of money, because I haven't got a lot of money to spend on advertising. If you think about it, how much are you paying in commission to Booking.com and Airbnb and late rooms every month? That's just about as much money as you've got in advertising. But if you look at it logically, you've got even more, because after you've paid that commission, you're still left with money to run your business and pay yourself and stuff like that. So you need to have a switch in mindset and dedicate a lot more resources in building a brand so you can increase your direct bookings. So I promised that this video was going to be less than 60 minutes. It's obviously gone over 60 minutes. So I will stop here. And I did promise that for everyone who signed up to watch this video last week, you guys will get free access to my new and updated book. It's the 2020 Service Accommodation book. It's basically the direct bookings edition. It talks about strategy as well in there, and how to scale up and how to operate on a daily basis, how to acquire apartments. But I think the most important chapters are the marketing chapters. So if you want this book, I said it would be free. If you want the book, do send me an email. My email address, you've got it because you're watching this video because I've sent you an email. So you just have to reply to that email and say, Amelia, can I please have a link to download your book? And I'll send it to you straight away. No strings attached. I mean, I'll be really happy if you left me a review on Amazon or Facebook, or just tag me in the group with your review. That'd be really good. Or you could just email me and say, oh, Amelia, I read your book. This is my review, so I can display it on my website. So yeah, I'm going to stop waffling. I hope you guys have found value in this video. If you have questions, tag me in the group and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If your question is more private, then send me an email. And I always get back to people. If I receive your email, I will always reply. I might not reply on the same day, but I make an effort to reply as soon as possible. So I'm going to close off now. It's my son's birthday today, so I'm not going to be available too much on social media, but I'll be keeping an eye on my emails to see who's got any questions and who needs help with what. So thank you guys, and I'll speak to you soon.